At United Nations headquarters, the Security Council places on its agenda a discussion of South Africa's apartheid crisis.
Between 1948 and 1990, an all-white government in South Africa immediately began enforcing existing policies of racial segregation. Because it was written into law, it became known as the apartheid policy. This policy is what I was born into and grew up in. During that time, South Africans killed each other in great numbers, hoping that the many deaths made us what we are today, a union. But did it? Eliminating differences made fighting inevitable, and as the law changed, intergenerational feelings did not. And many scars are left from the absurdity and foolishness of those tragic years, living isolated but policed by the rest of the world. I left South Africa 27 years ago, ironically the same time frame Nelson Mandela was imprisoned. After almost 3 decades, I returned with my family to my birth country to show my children my beloved country. I believed black people were not our equal because I was told to, because I had no choice but to accept the indoctrination of my so-called birthright. But deep down, I knew it was wrong. As a child, I was confused by my love and devotion to my African nanny as second mother and her fight and beliefs for freedom. Against all I knew and all I was, and in total fear, I left the country. Almost 30 years later, still fearful and looking to find meaning in my early life, I arrive on South African soil with my children, Ashley, Dylan, Chad, and Taylor. When I think back to my earliest memories of living in Johannesburg, I visualize trains that embody connections between stations, the rhythm, the freedom of being suspended between two places, my life and their life. I was free to ride any train of life, but also blinded by the last station I just passed. This was life as I knew it. This was the truth. There was no other way. White-only signs, my nanny living in a dungeon communal room, her husband banned from visiting, passbooks mandated to be carried by black people. People of color lived in townships away from our neighborhoods. They were poor laborers, went to separate schools, spoke a different language. We were separated because of the color of our skin. And this was my normal. This was my world. And the rest of the world was no different. As a 7-year-old, everyone lived this way. It's day one, and after almost 30 hours of traveling from Toronto, Canada, jet-lagged, we wearily start the journey. I don't know if you noticed, Temba, but when we came last night home, it was late at night. And when you drove into the Peach Hotel, the door didn't open straight away. Remember, it stopped and then it opened afterwards a little bit. And it was late, it was dark. And then there was a car driving down and it had its lights on. And I got so nervous. Yeah. I think my daughters noticed, because did you notice? No. Taylor did. Yeah, they were sitting next to me, but I got so nervous because I was carjacked when I was here. So it brought up so much fear, right? And I just was like, I think I said, why isn't the door opening? Why isn't the door opening? But I was like, oh my gosh, just get me inside. But that's, anyway. As we drive off, I recall the beautiful streets lined with jacaranda trees. How I miss that fresh, crisp smell. The lavender flowers reflected on the always brilliant blue South African sky. The beautiful manicured lawns, where are they? My first impressions of my beloved country were shattered instantly. Yeah, look what this looks like.
We could not drive through the central business district or Hillbrow, where I used to hang out as a teenager.
We used to walk up here.
It was too dangerous. On the outskirts of Main Street was enough. This was my beloved country.
That's Hawthorne Avenue over there, I'm sure.
I found myself closing my eyes and preferring to remember my city as it was 30 years ago. I wanted my children to know the people that shaped my life growing up in South Africa. Our first stop, the Jewish cemetery, where my grandparents lie peacefully. I don't fear death. What I fear is not living. I also believe that the life of the dead should be placed in the memory of the living. I guess this is what I am hoping for. So I bring my children to where our journey starts, and ironically mine will end one day.
Your family to see you. Showed in South Africa and how I grew up, how you influenced my life growing up, and how much you gave me. Your daughter misses you, she loves you.
They represent more than the love they offered me. It was the life we had. I'm glad they never saw their country in so much pain. Many early memories all stem from my grandmother's house. To me, it was my home of profound memories.
Yeah, just the walls, the security, the people, the driving on the wrong side of the road, the way that it's like a developed
life growing up here. So that's why I have the camera. Is it okay if I ask you some questions?
It's fine.
The crime 26 years ago.
It's waste now.
Now it's waste. That's the reason why. It's no longer the best environment to raise your kids.
Right.
Because they're exposed to many dangerous or whatever things, many
Yeah,
things
now
now.
life this side is
Yeah.
waste.
So when you say dangerous, is it robberies and murders? Like if they will break in to steal
Everything.
and they'll kill you, right?
Yes. Like right now, we are staying in Kensington. It's not very far from here. But it's not very,
Yeah.
it's not very good.
Oh, yeah, life this side, no, it's no longer.
Life is no longer safe. It's no longer,
Yes,
no longer the best environment for the kids, I would say.
And why do you think it's gotten worse?
Crime rate is very high.
People are unemployment.
Unemployment.
Unemployment as well, yes. Maybe the government is not focusing mainly on the rights of people or kids, or let me put it that way. It doesn't have the future plans.
Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't secure the future of our kids.
And
I would
what
say
do you
that.
do here?
I'm a safety officer here, but already I have plans to relocate to where you guys are staying right now.
You to Toronto?
I'll
Okay.
be coming that side. My friend went there last week.
You
Yeah,
really?
so already
Yeah.
I'm having plans to join you guys that
Oh, well, that's
Yeah.
great. What is your name?
Caroline.
Nice to meet you, Caroline.
Nice to
And what
meet
is your
you.
name?
For life.
Polite.
Yes, you see, I'm running a Korea company here, but I've decided to close down my company. Yeah, and move from South Africa.
I can't wait to get there.
You can't wait to
Time
get
to secure my children's speech.
such beautiful people here. Just like and that's also the dichotomy here, is that you get beautiful, beautiful people, friendly, kind, and warm, and then you get people who are just so angry and full of hatred and wanting to murder and kill and defame and destroy. Am I right? Right? There's so many, kind soul, but look at the filth, look at the dirt. It was never. Look at this, guys. Look at the streets.
It
This
was never like this when you were.
never. Our roads were.
That stems from the government, obviously,
Yeah.
because they would have, people in jobs picking it up.
I know. Yeah. So this is where the Solly Province liquor store used to be. I used to come with Grandpa to buy his whiskey.
This is the home I left Johannesburg from. I lived here from 1982 to 1996. It is a subdivision of Sandton, well known as an upper-class area, but not without its problems. We lived less than 2 kilometers from Alexandra. Alex, as it is known, is one of the roughest townships in South Africa. In Alex, you signal for a taxi by making your hand into a gun. Gunshots and police sirens were the norm. I recall when a black man removed the roof tiles from our neighbor's house, throwing them down into her bedroom and cutting her to pieces until help arrived. Just another callous fall night. It was then I began to carry a CZ75, a semi-automatic pistol. As I enter my home for the first time after 30 years, I close my eyes and think back to the beautiful, exquisite marble tiles. Hollyland might as well have been called Hollywood in the 80s. The vivid granite tiles, sandstone floors, California blinds, manicured gardens, custom built-in fixtures. My mom's Passover table, elegant, classy, and just culturally so rich. The treasure chest of my living, gone.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, this is incredible to see. Can I show them where my bedroom was?
I think upstairs there are like some tenants there, so they locked the door.
Ah, there's different people live
Yeah,
upstairs.
different people live upstairs.
Oh, okay,
That's
no
okay.
problem. So, so you live downstairs and they live upstairs. Oh, okay. What amazing memories. Blacks and whites were still, there was apartheid, weren't allowed to mix, so we were not allowed to have black people in our schools. It was only whites. Days at Bramley, filled with sunshine, loyal friends and carefree days.
30 years later, and I still remember every word of my primary school song. Bramley was a public school. It was a whites-only school due to the apartheid policy. The education we followed was very similar to the high standard of the British A and O levels. Today, it is a black-only school, not by law or any policy, and the pass rate has been reduced to 30%.
Time is the only currency in life we have. You can always get more money, you can always grow your hair longer, you can always buy something else, but you can never, ever get more time. You know, and every 60 seconds of unhappiness is a minute of wasted happiness. And I've always said that to you, so yeah. It's very true.
Yeah.
But it was good to see.
Yeah.
I'm glad we went.
Yeah.
It's good to see your grandparents who we weren't fortunate enough to know ever. It's good to see them.
Yeah. I'm very happy we did it. Like, that's something that I will never forget.
Yeah, I'll remember that.
It's very interesting to see how you grew up in such a different environment than we. It's just, I don't know. It's strange because you think of it, like, okay, like, cool, my parents are from South Africa. It's a fun thing to say to your friends, and it's like almost a conversation starter, but you don't really think of it in the sense that we saw it today.
Although there were pockets of violence and crime, but those don't mar the beautiful experience I had here growing up, because I did grow up free as a child, ironically, in a country that didn't allow freedom to the majority.
Yeah. Obviously, since I've been around, you've been my world. So it's like to see what. No, but to see that completely different to what you experienced is so. I don't know. That's one thing I was very excited to see.
Just because I can picture it now and I can see exactly where it was, and I just say, like, I feel like I can describe it better if people ask. I don't know.
Even though what you saw today was very different to 50 years ago, me growing
But
up.
even still, because I saw it today as it was, that's how I'm picturing it. Like, I know it was very different and it looked different and the vibe was different, but I'll probably picture it like this.
Yeah.
Just because that's how we saw it.
Yeah.
And
that's why I can't imagine you living here. I know it was a totally different thing, but I can't imagine it.
Day 3, and both my boys sick with food poisoning. An important day nonetheless, not just to show my girls Soweto and Nelson's homes, but what I was soon to find out, a fundamental historical education for none other than myself. We drive through an area called Houghton to see where Nelson and Winnie lived after he was released from prison. He lived here from 1992 to 1996, and then moved one road away to live with Gracca Michelle, his second wife. I stare out the window at the multi-million-dollar Houghton homes. But all I can see are the 10-foot walls, electric wires, security cameras, guards, and electric gates. This is another world. Only a few minutes' drive from utter poverty. The drive through Johannesburg, now called Gauteng, took us to the FNB Stadium, where the 2010 Soccer World Cup was held. What a stage for my birth country. What an opportunity it was to showcase its beauty. Soweto was created in the 1930s when the white government started separating blacks from whites, creating what we call black townships. Soweto became an epicenter of political campaigns. It was a location where 3,000 people came together to adopt the Freedom Charter in the 1955s, which is what the South African Constitution is now based. I had no fucking idea of this. And I lived here? It's incredible to see the disparity of black South Africans living in Soweto. Affluent, prosperous, to complete impoverishment.
So no one in Soweto was allowed to build a wall of bricks. So your house needs to be this kind of enclosure, so for the police to monitor your movement. So as we are driving, you see some of the houses, they still have the same system. Then yeah, of course some now they are free, they can build the wall, but it depends on the income of it, but some of them just kept it the way it used to be before.
Baragwanath Hospital in Soweto is the largest hospital in Africa and third largest hospital in the world. It occupies 170 acres. This is Soweto, the dangerous township I never missed an opportunity to disparage.
So they build those houses for free and they give to South African citizens only, the one who live in the Shanty town. So as I said, in the Shanty, they are mixed up. There are some South African citizens And there are people from Zimbabwe, Mozambique, they live together.
But as we drive away from the upper class East Soweto, the shanty towns, the Soweto I imagined now emerges. With trepidation, we enter a shanty town. I look like I'm holding onto my bag for dear life.
Which is equivalent to 5 kilometers length and breadth, was going to be a temporary housing solution, and government was meant to build brick homes for these people and relocate them to those homes. That has never happened for the last 30 plus years. The lettering system within such a community, due to the fact, as you see, we don't have any letter boxes. Yeah. Every Wednesday we go to local community hall. We have one young lady who volunteers to be the clerk. So she arranges our mail according to your house number. So with the educational system, we use a basic 12-year learning system. The age of 6, you begin elementary school. The age of 18, you graduate from secondary school. Please be careful of your overhead as you turn. Okay.
This is the central water station. The water here runs 365 days a year. It is never switched off.
This water stays for you to drink directly off the tap itself. You do not have to keep it in concentration. Yeah. This water is supplied by the same drinking water supplied by other parts. You are not allocated any amount of water for you to use the water. It's always on. It's always on. 365 days a year, 66 is a solution. This is only cold water for you to use it up. You have to take it back into your house.
You wash it by hand,
Yes.
with your feet.
I feet in the hand.
Sure. No washing machine.
I'm a washing machine. Nothing you can do. How many family members in your house?
3.
We have 3 family members. So then in most homes where there are 4 people, 6 people or 8 people, they remove a cushion from the bed, they place it onto the floor to create more sleeping space for the other family members. I call these homes a bachelor pad with no toilet, where your sleeping area is in your kitchen area is in your sleeping area. What types of fuels do we use when it comes to cooking? We use paraffin stoves, we use gas stoves, we use wood stoves. Wood stoves are only appropriate in your winter season because they also act as a heater to warm up the home. Paraffin stoves, the most safest but the most cheapest but also expensive at the same time, because every day you need at least a liter of paraffin. Gas, much more expensive and once-off purchase, but it lasts you closer to 30 days. When it comes to bathing, we use those portable dishes over there for us to bathe. The other family members would then leave the home and they give that sense of privacy. The electricity that we have is not suitable for high voltage appliances, it's only suitable for a light bulb, a cell phone charger, television set, and a high-pressure stereo. Reason being, the electricity we use is what we call illegal connections. So it either gets connected to your street lamp or the railway line. And you only have electricity from 6 p.m. in the morning, 6 p.m. in the evening to 6 a.m. in the morning. Any questions?
It's very hot in here.
Yeah. How do you guys handle the heat?
What they do is they prefer being on the outside rather than on the inside during your.
Yeah, I would say it's hotter inside than
it's
outside.
hotter, yes, it's hotter on the outside.
I think it's the metal roofs, right?
Yeah. So also in the winter season, when it gets cold on the outside, it gets cold on the inside also. Yeah.
Very cold. How old is your baby?
1 year.
So then what we do within this community, due to the huge unemployment rate, they gather themselves between 4 homes to make sure that there's ubuntu within this community to all look after one another and care for one another. So they gather themselves between 4 homes and they cook a collective meal to make sure that no one wakes up hungry and that no one goes to bed hungry. Please be careful.
Yeah, He has it. Electricity, this.
This would be the laundry line.
Oh, I was going to say, that doesn't look like a electricity line.
Yeah, this thin one, like you see up at that pole over there. Yeah, that's the electricity. So usually they have like 10 households on one line. But now the more people on one line, the less electrical current you actually get.
I was a tourist in my birth country. The obliviousness of living with blinders on shook me to my absolute core. For each baby born, a mother receives 350 Rand per month from the South African government. That is equivalent to approximately $20 per month. They desperately need the money, so they continue to have babies, believing the 350 Rand will help with their expenses. As a reference point, 1 pack of diapers will be half of the monthly income. 1 pack of diapers. Hence, we saw that beautiful 1-year-old baby boy lying diaperless on a wet towel. We continue on to Orlando West, where Mandela, Sisulu, and many other political prisoners first lived. Vilakazi Street is a hotspot of restaurants and nightclubs, a big tourist street. I just loved the tribal dancing. I obviously never practiced enough. We enter Nelson Mandela's home in Soweto. Tata simply means father in the language of Mandela's Xhosa tribe. You feel the humanity, valor, resilience, vigor of his soul here. I feel it. His profound messages. And then we look up at the faded red brick wall, and as if it happened yesterday, as clear as day, the multiple bullet holes fired into Nelson and Winnie's house from the Afrikaner police force. His bedroom is stoic. I envision the numerous discerning thoughts and contemplations that must have partaken in this room. The house is full of memorabilia and the beautiful, understated, but very precious family photo.
First, Nelson and Winnie. The second, Zinzi and Zinani. The third, 1, 2, 3 granddaughters, and then last is the 2 great-granddaughters.
Standing in his living room, you see the half wall to the kitchen, which he and the family would run and hide behind when the Afrikaner police started firing. My dear Madiba, if I could roll back time, I would be so honored to call you that. Forever and always, you were and are the father of our nation. And further fulfilled to see how my adopted country, Canada, was the first to award you citizenship. Feeling solemn, we make our way to the Hector Peterson and Apartheid Museum.
I lived in South Africa, Johannesburg, for 26 years, and I never ever visited Soweto. And I think if you speak to any white South African that might have immigrated or was born in the 70s, they probably have never ever visited Soweto either. It was out of reach to us in terms of being too dangerous, crime, just a place where we don't go or even think about it. And having just visited today for the first time, I would sooner live in Soweto than I would in Johannesburg. I felt safe there. The people were beautiful. They took us through and we saw how the three different classes, from, you know, the wealthier to the middle class to those living in the shanty towns in poverty, how they live. And part of me feels a lot of anger, actually. I feel angry because this homes and electricity and normal resources that an average family and a household have was promised to them, was promised to these people. And this is, you know, 30 years later, I come back and I see that they still don't have that. And they are still washing clothes in a bucket with their feet. And there is still a 1-year-old baby sweating and lying in a boiling hot, tiny 5 square foot home built of steel. You know, this angers me, and I don't to this day understand why a lot of them think that they in some way are better off because they might have the freedom, but they haven't got what was promised to them. And how do we move from this type of society and this community and this life? How do they move out of this? I don't see any way out. I don't. I never knew who Hector Peterson was.
In total humiliation, I confess that when June 16th became a National Youth Day, I celebrated it because it was my grandparents' anniversary. No other reason. How ignorance can assassinate the mind. Hector Peterson was a 12-year-old child who was waiting for his sister after school. There was an uprising in Soweto against the sole use of the Afrikaans language in schools. An iconic image by newspaper photographer Sam Nzima showed the dying Hector being carried by a fellow student. This photograph was published around the world, but not for us to view. He was killed by a single shot fired directly at him.
We were told that, you know, there are, you know, for every 5 houses in these small little shanties, and there's up to 4 to 8 people that live in them, and they share one portable toilet. But how volunteers get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go and clean those toilets so that they can live in a, you know, decent cleanliness, as opposed to how a lot of the squatters are living in derelict filth in Johannesburg. That makes me see how proud they are that they have this community called Soweto and have this home that they are proud of. And it's, you know, when you have pride for your home, it goes a long way. Today I'm feeling angry. Today I'm feeling angry from what I saw, because it's, why has the government not done more? Why have they not fulfilled their promises? Why are they still corrupt? And why are the black South Africans who are living there tolerating it? Why are they not standing up like they stood up when they were told to carry passes and they were told that they had to speak Afrikaans in their schools? They stood up and they fought for what they deserved. Why are they not standing up now to government for what they deserve and what they rightly deserve? That angers me. That's how I'm feeling today.
It's very hard. It was very sad to see that's how people live. But like you were saying, they're such beautiful people and they seem so happy, which is really crazy to me, because I could never imagine, like, I've never seen something like that before in my life, and how they clean their clothes and make their food, and how they share one tiny little space for so many people. It's unbelievable, really. But they just seemed so happy, and they were so welcoming and allowing us into their homes, and we learned about where they go to school.
What was it like for you walking into Nelson Mandela's house?
That was pretty cool, I have to say. I obviously know a lot about what Nelson Mandela did, and from you, but seeing where he lived, and all the different like artifacts and certificates that represented him as well, and I particularly like the one that said he was an honorary citizen of Toronto. That was cool to see. But seeing his house was definitely crazy and amazing. Yeah, like the bullet holes that we saw, that was insane. And the fact that they had a wall that was just there to protect them from when the police would come and shoot at the wall was crazy.
2 generations here, you know, one that grew up in South Africa, coming back with my children and bringing them to Soweto and seeing it for the first time together. You know, my kids are Canadian, I am Canadian now, but seeing it together for the first time. And my kids looked at me and said, "What do you mean you've never been here?" And it just really was big impetus for the way we grew up as white affluent individuals within South Africa, and being segregated and kept away from the real South Africa that was happening at this time. We're leaving at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning to go to the Kruger National Park, and I actually, to be quite honest, can't wait to get out of Johannesburg. That's how I feel.
Me too. I also want to leave. I don't like it here so much. I know it's not the same as when you were here, obviously, but you make me feel like, I don't know, sometimes you make me feel like a bit scared, like I should be scared, but it's definitely not the same as what you described it when you were a kid. So I'm excited to go.
What's ironic is that how the black population fought for freedom and how they have the freedom now, yet the white people who are still living here have lost their freedom because they cannot walk in the streets. They live as prisoners in their homes behind 8-foot walls, barbed wires and beams. So I find that actually quite ironic.
When people hear I'm from South Africa, there are always 2 words they say: apartheid and safari. The latter I love to talk about. Former is something I wish people could forgive. Not forget, but forgive. South Africa is a land of extraordinary natural wealth. The big 5, lion, leopard, buffalo, elephant and rhino, roam freely through South Africa's premier safari destination, the Kruger National Park, which is bigger than the State of Israel. It was imperative to show my children this incredible savanna. It is, after all, the cord that holds the South African tourist industry together, and in many ways, its soul, its essence, and its spirit.
Okay, so we're on safari. Just being able to be in the bush in Africa, the clean and crisp air, and just being in touch with nature has been incredible.
Within 30 seconds of leaving the lodge, we are blocked by an elephant herd. Silence. We are all mesmerized. Unfortunately, I only visited the Kruger National Park 3 times in 27 years. It was something we took for granted, instead choosing Cape Town as our family vacations. I believe my parents did not value this magnificent land and animal kingdom that we have, something I want my children to experience.
But to me, this is the beauty and the geography and the nature and the absolute exquisiteness of Southern Africa that unfortunately most internationals and tourists only get to see. It's, from what I've heard, become quite unaffordable to a lot of South Africans.
My experience has been here. It's been unforgettable to see the animals in the wild, to see the behavior, because everything they do is deliberate in their survival tactics, which I find fascinating. So for me, that's that thrill and that sense of, they're roaring, the lions are roaring, leopards moving, but they're doing it for a reason. Why are they doing it?
Everyone always wants to see the big five. Not unlike human life, how we look to our leaders, presidents, prime ministers, kings and queens. We look at the lion as the king of the jungle. But it's the masses, the people, the workers, the citizens of a country. They are the cog in a country's wheel. Always overlooked, but essential. Nature, like life, does not differ. Let me explain. Dylan found the dung beetle fascinating. In relation to its size, the dung beetle is not only the world's strongest insect, but the world's strongest animal. It moves balls of dung 1,000 times its own body weight. That is the same as a human dragging 6 full double-decker buses along a road. They are mighty recyclers, burying and rolling animal dung all day long. Incredible insects, but disregarded. And then there are the termites and their 10-foot mounds that can cover 50 square meters underground. These colonies go through 1/4 of a ton of soil each year, transporting it through their tunnels and filling it with nutrients. It is due to them that we have lush grassland areas for the many animals. If only we treated these 2 tiny insects with the same respect as we do the big five. They are, after all, pertinent to the life of the savannah.
Yeah, I agree with that. But also just being out in nature, I feel like we don't get to experience this a lot at all. It didn't even seem real to see the lion roar like that. It looked so fake, and just to experience that like 10 feet away from me is something unforgettable.
I'm Kelton. I'm a field guide here at Jackal Safari Lodge. I have the privilege of taking Corrine and the family out on safari. Growing up, I felt it, like we were moving in the right direction, and then going into sort of adult life and into work environments and stuff, it seemed to be that there were some individuals holding on to the past and keeping the grudges, which was limiting the movement forward into a unified country. I'm 100% calm and walking amongst lions and animals and all kinds of weird things, but when you go into Johannesburg, I feel a little bit more uneasy. But that being said, it's getting worse, I guess. Year by year, things are just seemingly going downhill now. I think we have the potential to do what we need to do and build our country and make it great. But I feel like it's slipping into the wrong direction and with the wrong people leading us. Cost of living, I guess, everywhere around the world has become quite high, but South Africa, it's becoming a little bit hard to keep up, as well as the deteriorating infrastructure, like for instance with the power supply, Eskom, that now leading to water shortages around the country. I mean, when Nelson Mandela came out, obviously, good intentions, best possible, like man that could have been in that spot and to lead the country forward. I think along the way, we've, as a country, the people that took over or took that legacy from Nelson Mandela strayed a bit and went more into self-gain instead of thinking of the country as Nelson Mandela did. And yes, it's very saddening.
My name is Nico, and then I'm a butler here at Jackalberry. And then I've got 11 years now in Thornybush collection. But here at Jackalberry, I've got 1 year and a couple of months. It's difficult for now because of load shedding. But Johannesburg, yes, but in Johannesburg, you can't bring the child there.
many family vacations. Cape Town is a modern cosmopolitan city surrounded by exquisite nature. Once the most beautiful city in the world, but now not far from the deterioration we saw in Johannesburg. We visited the numerous magical areas of the Cape Peninsula. Table Mountain is a flat-top mountain forming a prominent landmark in the city. When a cloud covers the mountain, we call that the tablecloth, an impressive sight. We opted to take the cableway instead of hiking to the top. Cape Point is a nature reserve, home to a variety of wildlife. Not far from Cape Agulhas, the southernmost tip of Africa, where the Indian Ocean meets the Atlantic Ocean. Interestingly, they meet, but they do not mix. Always be yourself unless you can be a penguin. Then, always be a penguin. A quote by an unknown author which captivates what these delightful aquatic flightless birds really are. Taylor has been a penguin lover from a very early age, and this was her dream. Boulders Beach is a sheltered beach made up of inlets between large granite boulders. And the colony of African penguins that live there are under the protection of the Cape Nature Conservation. Black and white together in one striking bird. Cape Town's beaches are powdered sugar-like white sand that sifts through your toes as you sink into the quartz powder. We visited Clifton's 4 beaches, Camps Bay, Llandudno, Muizenberg, Fishhook and Hout Bay. As a child, my all-time favorite beach was Llandudno, and our family beach was always Muizenberg. Visiting Cape Town as a child, these were white-only beaches, and I never questioned it. We stopped on the side of the road to support the many South Africans that sell traditional handmade souvenirs, only to find out that most of them are from Mozambique. One lady remarked that South Africans are lazy and they can't make what we can anymore. Lazy, I thought. Or have you stolen their place? Stellenbosch is a town in the Western Cape. The restored Cape Dutch architecture dates back to the 18th century, and its streets are lined with majestic oaks. There are more than 100 wine cellars producing some of the world's most premium wines. In this historic town centre of Stellenbosch, there is a trading post-style shop called Oom Sami se Winkel. This is a neo-Gothic Moederkerk church and museum dedicated to toys and military memorabilia and early life on the Cape. As a child, it was my beloved shop to visit annually. And 3 decades later, I was again a kid in a candy shop. And then there is the Victoria and Alfred waterfront, which is located in the oldest working harbour in the Southern Hemisphere. We had many superb meals in the fine dining restaurants here, but not one was without a load-shedding incident. We were told coffee machines were not working today, or 50% of the menu is unavailable, or only cold food can be served now. First world problems for us, but not for the people of this country. Many years ago, it was national news that the state-owned power utility company Eskom was running on standby generators. This was ignored by the leaders of this country. Ignored for many, many years, because a profitable contract was given to a politically connected person to supply diesel to these generators at Eskom at an inflated rate. This was an easy extraction of money for the politicians. No one cared about the aging coal-fired power plants. Just use generators. We make big money selling diesel to Eskom. Nothing but bloodsuckers obtaining money without creating real value. You, and you know who you are, have sucked the lifeblood from a once vibrant economy. 60 million South Africans nationally have no electricity for up to 10 hours every single day. And this is the most industrialized country in Africa? The former head of Eskom and previous politicians were charged with multiple counts relating to corruption, fraud, money laundering, which involved millions. But the recovery of these funds is trivial. No amount of money can fix the last 10 years of stolen time from the people of South Africa. Rolling blackouts daily for hours will continue for many years to come in South Africa.
It's one of the things I've always said when people ask about a country. I always say that people of a country make a country. And I've always felt that. One of the things growing up in South Africa, I think I've spoken a lot about, was about freedom. And although I had the freedom as a child, sometimes define freedom as living without fears. I never had that in the end, and I had to leave because I lived in fear. And coming back here, I really was hoping to conquer that fear and see some major changes in the people of South Africa. I did. But those changes were quite profound, unfortunately, for the negative. They are beautiful people and there's so much soul in Africa. But the anger has overtaken the people of South Africa.
I find my children trying to take this all in. Such beauty and splendor, Mom. But is this all just a prop on a stage of destruction? You can't help thinking this when you drive from one magical experience to the next. And then you see this. This is reality. This is the mother city without a caring, loving, nurturing caregiver. Nelson Mandela said, "No one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails." The question I ask is, do you need to be incarcerated to become a great leader that inspires action through guidance and mentorship and unifies a nation? If so, the past and current leaders of South Africa have all been there. So why have you failed the nation and destroyed Mandela's vision? We take the boat across the icy Atlantic to Robben Island, a small island located just off the coast of Cape Town, where Nelson Mandela and many political prisoners spent years incarcerated. As we walk through the small, barren prison garden where Nelson managed to grow onions and eggplants and cabbage and beans and spinach, you sense a small taste of freedom, which is how he referred to his garden.
That's a common communal cell. This one is isolation. In this cell, there's no running, flushing toilet.
The prisoners had to work outdoors in the isolated lime quarry. The work was exhausting and dehumanizing. This was Nelson's cell for 18 years, confined to an 8-foot by 7-foot concrete cell with a straw mat and a bucket for a toilet. My feelings so conflicted. I felt proud that he became the leader he did in such severe conditions, but nauseated that while this was going on, I and millions of white South Africans were living free and prosperous lives, but blind. At the very moment of holding onto the prison cell bars, I was illiterate, unlearned, unlettered, untutored, simply senseless. Mandela sacrificed his name for a number to save the people of his nation. He was 46664 for 18 years at Robben Island. The South African leaders today have sacrificed the people to save their numbers.
So today was our last full day in Cape Town. South Africa as a whole, I'd say it's beautiful, but also kind of sad and depressing at times. You can come visit, but I feel like living here is a different story. Yeah, I have a lot of different
feelings about South Africa. I definitely like it, but I don't know if I'm dying to come back here.
It's been a crazy journey. Started in Johannesburg, beautiful, did the safari, and ended here in Cape Town. Definitely a lot to take in. You know, I was told earlier that this really wasn't the childhood that my mother had. A lot has changed. The country's been run by different people, and things are not the way that they were when my mom was growing up. And the true contrast between where I live and here is striking. Kind of a glimpse into my mother's past life gives me kind of a better understanding of her now. So in that respect, it's very beautiful, but I'm ready to go home.
And when I got here, I realized that the government has, in a way, kind of ruined it with extreme poverty and wealth inequality, and just it overall put a sour taste in my mouth, where the people and the natural beauty is great. There's just layers of problems on top that I can't look past, and I don't think I'll ever come back here because of that.
When I first found out I was coming to South Africa, I was extremely excited, and I don't really want to say it has been underwhelming, but I think a part of it has. Like, I hated Joburg, like it was just awful. The safari was really awesome, but like that, I don't think that's like real, like where people live, and I don't know, it doesn't really seem real. And then coming here to Cape Town, it's beautiful here, but it's still nothing special. Like I would never return, like under any circumstances.